bumped into an old friend who you hadn't seen in a while, and they were like, "What are you doing now? How are you?" What would you say?
So we talked about this like before we started recording, and I told Kelly that like this is such a hard question for me to answer. I don't know if people out there who are going to be watching this like know anything about the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 9, and not only that, I feel like my whole life also it's really hard for me to answer a question without going on tangents, but I'm gonna try and focus. I feel like my whole life I've searched for my identity like in other people or in other places. And that on top of being an Enneagram 9, it's really hard for me to kind of answer these questions. I'm usually the one who's asking everybody else about them, almost in a way, so then I don't have to share anything about me. But since like, we're kind of putting it all out there and I really want to like, have an open heart, and allow that to be shared with others, I guess what I would tell somebody is, I don't really know. I think that I kind of took the mask off and I've really had a homecoming and come into my own. And I feel like I'm not afraid to share my gifts with others. So I use them in a way to um, hopefully open up other people to higher frequencies so that they can then kind of recognize whatever's going on inside of them energetically, how it's affecting them, and how to release it. So I'm an energy worker, I'm a Reiki master. I'm also a psychic medium. So I work with frequency. I work with, your angels and your ancestors. It all sounds very woo-woo, but it also feels very authentic to like my own soul and who I am. So long tangent. That's what I guess I would tell them. I probably wouldn't though, because I am like an Enneagram 9. I probably would just be like, oh, I don't know, like things are good. Like I'm just hanging out, living life.
I think you'd probably go into like what your kids are doing instead of what you're doing.
1000%. Yeah, probably. I feel like it's my life is basically a soccer field because that's where I am 90% of the time.
Well, what you said resonates. Like I feel like had you found me on the street 10 years ago and asked me that question, depending on who was asking the question, I might have a different answer because I think I had my mask on and I would say like if it was someone who I knew was involved in like the tech world, I would give some sort of very tech focused response. Or if
Mhm.
it was someone who was a fellow parent, I would give some sort of very parent focused response and I would like sort of compartmentalize my life and my identity based on who I was
Yeah.
encountering at the time. And that was like, that's not just who I am, right? That's like a tiny portion of who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also for you, especially, I think you're more of a feeler than I am, and I think you're very empathic and you're a sponge. And I think that like when you say that, like you have to give yourself credit because to me it's not a mask that you were kind of like putting on. Like I feel like you just are almost like this sponge and you are so connected to like other people's energy that um that's why you kind of would like almost not like identify yourself in whatever they're talking about, but it was easier for you to do that. But also maybe there's a little bit of a 9 in you too, where it's just easier to kind of talk about whatever somebody else wants to talk about.
Well, and this is why everyone needs their own cosmic bestie because she just totally like elevated me in that moment. And I think that's one of the cool things about our relationship is we've been friends for over 2 decades, 20
Yeah.
some years now. And like, I don't know, like my favorite time hanging out in those couple years, like in those the time we were in St. Louis together was like we would just sit and watch TV and hang out. It was very low pressure, like,
Mhm.
you know, you're
Yeah.
on the same vibration, and it's easy. That's how I would describe like the best friendships. They're easy.
Yeah. Comfortable, but like in a good way.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm going to turn that question around and ask you.
Okay.
How would you describe yourself to someone you haven't seen in a long time?
Well, now I think I would tell them that I am what I describe as an authenticity alchemist. And so, in
Mhm.
any facet of my life, I'm really trying to help people live who they are most authentically. And so, this plays a part in like what I do in my day job, running learning and development at a global organization when I'm coaching an engineer. There was an engineer I was working with, for example, who was also a practicing Buddhist. And for a long time, he would bring like portions of himself to work. instead of his whole self because he felt like he had to hide aspects of who he was to be taken seriously, even though he was a very good engineer. And so um, at work, I'm trying to really help people show up as their full selves. And so when I'm coaching private clients, it's the same thing, but it's often a much more multifaceted journey when I'm working with private clients because they're coming from all walks of life. And sometimes it's people trying to figure out like how to show up authentically as themselves now that they're retired, or how to show up authentically as themselves if they've had a huge life change, like maybe they've become a parent for the first time. But
Yeah.
in addition to that, I also do Reiki, like Christy, and I recently became a certified Zumba instructor just for funsies.
Yeah. Well, I feel like dance has always been part of your life. Like you've always loved that.
Yeah. I think that I never realized how much I needed it until like this last decade. Like I danced all my life, like you said, and there was a small snippet of time where I didn't, and that was like early college, and that's where I got the most lost. And I think it was because I was absorbing all of these emotions and feelings of all the people around me, and I had my own, and so like I just got really weighted down by all of this like gross level of emotion that wasn't mine. And so then once I started dancing again, I was able to lighten up and it went
Yeah.
away. So
I think that's like a normal thing too, that like college, like that time in your life, that age, you're just kind of figuring out who you are. But um, I don't know. I would be so curious to look at your chart and see like if you have any like ones or threes in it, because
mm,
that's all about kind of like learning through experience. And I know I have those numbers in my chart too. And I wonder if you do as well, because I think that part of like our journeys
yeah,
are not necessarily like we have to figure it out on our own in our own time. And a lot of that is like gaining life experience through life experiences. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about. I don't know if like it was so much of you trying to like find yourself in others, or your identity kind of getting lost, like kind of what I was hearing from you. To me, it feels like you needed to have all of those experiences, and maybe for whatever reason
yeah.
the dance portion needed to kind of stay in the past so that you could really like add on different facets of you, so that then when you find yourself fully in our, we talk about it in our 40s, you have all of that experience.
I also think that like in the elements of or phases of my life where I wasn't doing dance or movement, it really allowed me to go deep into some of the shadow elements
Mm.
of who I was, and I don't think that would have happened without it. So it had to be like this catalyst of sorts.
Yeah,
But
that came later for me. I think that like we've talked about this before. Like I would drink and just like numb everything. So I think when I stopped drinking, like I guess almost 18 months ago, that was like the big transformational like shadow, looking at how, I treated people in the past, how I treated myself in the past. Really like exploring that like self-abandonment, and in that, in like exploring all of those shadows,
yeah.
you do find the light. But in the light, what's even better than that is you find like yourself, and that you've kind of been there all along. I almost felt, I was like, I could see myself like as a separate version. And she's like, oh my God, like welcome home. Like you finally figured it out. It took you 40 years, but welcome home. So maybe you went through that period like a little bit before, or maybe you've kind of been inching towards it.
Yeah, I feel like it's been different phases. Like I feel like I'll like go deep into shadow work and then I'll come out for a while and stay in the light and then I'll go deep into shadow work and then come out for a while. So it's been like this not roller coaster because it wasn't like
Yeah.
turbulent, but it was just like it's like chutes and ladders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that feels more balanced. Whereas I was like, I'm just gonna dive right into this pool of like crap and figure it out. Just
I
gonna
hate
do it.
it.
We're gonna take a year and just figure it out.
I talk about like people's career journeys at work being like an adventure and like some people are both going to a monument, but like one person might be really good at bike riding, so they're gonna bike up the hill, and the other person sucks at bike riding, so they're gonna like take a long meandering way to get to the monument. Like
Yeah.
everybody gets there at some point. Everybody just has to take their own path. And that's why it's so
So
important to
true.
not like compare, our journeys to anyone else's journey because everyone's is totally different.
That's what they say, like comparison is the thief of joy. And I love that saying because it's so true. Like you're robbing yourself of yourself
Yeah.
when you're comparing yourself to other people because that's their journey. And I think that took me a long time to figure that out, that I needed almost to put like blinders up to remind myself like this is my path and
Mm,
it's okay that this is my path and it's okay that it's different than, you know, so and so's path. Um, yeah, a lot of soul
yeah.
work. I wonder
Yeah.
if this podcast is gonna, maybe that's something that we can like explore too, is just like figuring out your own path and how to kind of stay
Yeah.
on it without meandering too much. Although sometimes maybe you need to meander. Maybe you need to like have those experiences or meet those people or, you know, have those certain jobs so that you can kind of figure out what your true north is.
Yeah. So Christy and I were talking about like how do we introduce what this is or what we're doing, and like there are so many different topics that we all want to like talk about. I don't know that there's a succinct way to sum it up, but I think at the end of the day, like we just want to help people feel less alone on their own like
Um,
spiritual journeys, and know that like you'll find your tribe eventually, and you need to you need to be willing to let go of things to find that tribe. And I don't know what else.
I also think like when I'm thinking of like this podcast or this like, you know, eventually like hopefully like a little community of kind of like-minded high vibrational or, you know, people or whatever, I hope that like we can kind of serve as anchors on their journeys. I think you've definitely served as an anchor in my life. And I think that that is what, you know, you can go it alone, but
Yeah.
that's it's so much better when you have somebody that's like your champion and your cheerleader along the way. And maybe that's what we can be for these people who are going through soul awakenings or I don't know. Also, like if you're just interested in this kind of stuff and interested in, you know, the woo-woo side of life, maybe I don't know, maybe we'll open your eyes to some things and maybe you'll open our eyes to some things.
I love that. I love that. And right back at you. Like I think it's so nice to be able to call Christy up and tell her about all of my weird woo-woo things. Like
Yeah.
when I put water out for the new moon or I blew cinnamon out my front door. She doesn't judge. She doesn't think I'm nuts. She just like is like, oh cool.
Yeah. No, I think that it's yeah, I'm like, tell me more. Maybe I should do this. Like I didn't know about the moon water. You told me about that the other night when it was it a new moon or a black moon?
Yeah, it was a new moon and it happened to be a black moon, which was pretty fantastic. It's the moon water is really designed now to be great for any kind of work you want to do, like spell work wise with healing your shadow and really starting fresh and having new beginnings. So don't know when I'm going to do anything with it, but it's there if I need it.
Absolutely. I almost wonder like maybe since it's, you know, the new year and we're having all of this new energy, like write your intention and put it underneath the moon water for a little bit.
I like
And
that.
maybe it will like amplify that frequency out for you.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that.
So.
I feel like I should actually do a card pull for you.
Ooh, let's
I
do
feel
it.
like the moon one is calling. It's been like glowing here. And
Ooh.
let's see what comes up for you. Okay, so you got Believe in the Impossible, the blue moon.
Ooh, I love that.
And so I actually think this is really fitting, and I think this is a message from the universe that is like, this is the time to like dream big, and anything that you think is like too impossible is not too impossible. And so like let your wildest manifestations start, and hey, then we can put them under that new moon water and see what
Yeah.
blooms.
I really feel that. I think that, you know, a lot of times it's natural, like human nature, to sell yourself short or to, I know I, like people talk about the scarcity mindset. I don't necessarily feel that so much with like money scarcity, but I feel it sometimes with like self scarcity where, um, it's almost like I don't like I make myself smaller in order to fit in places.
Mm.
And I want that energy to be left in the past. And so maybe now this new moon is almost like the car, or not the moon, the whatever, the blue moon that
Yeah.
you chose is like a sign for me to allow myself to take up space too.
Yeah, I really like that. You know,
Yeah.
they're so powerful. I've been talking to my daughter about that because I don't know, I've just been so much more intentional over the last several months about what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a song is on, all of a sudden you start to like sing along with it. And so I told
Thoughts or frequency.
yeah, exactly. I told her what the words abracadabra actually meant, and they come from this old Aramaic phrase that means we create as we speak. And she's like, "So what does that mean?" And so I told her, I said, "Think carefully about which Taylor Swift songs you're singing out loud.
Yeah.
'Cause some of those lyrics are fantastic, and other ones are really not great for you to be
Yeah.
singing about yourself."
To me, when I think about it, like I almost see like the frequency, like it's like a web coming out. And so like what you're thinking about, what you're digesting, like on a level, not just like digesting your food.
Mhm.
Um, to me, it like sends out these little like webs, and whatever you're focusing on the most, that's what you're gonna like. It's almost like a frequency that you send out, and then this other frequency is like, oh, I hear you. I'm gonna come back in and meet you. And
Mhm.
so if you're kind of stuck in like a rut and you're thinking really negatively, and then on top of that, you're listening to like, like when you break up with a boy and you're like, I just want to listen to like sad girl music or like angry girl music like that, be in your feels for a little bit, but then when you can pull yourself out because it's like sending out a frequency of um that energy and then other energy is going to find it and come back in. So I think you're right. Like you have to be really careful about the things you say about yourself and the things you think about yourself, but also the things that like you're allowing your soul to digest. Like I don't watch the news at all anymore.
Yeah.
I it's so negative and it makes me feel like I don't know, really just kind of anxious all the time. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like I maybe I should, but you just have to have boundaries.
You should not.
Nothing, nothing good in the news.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's like a reason you should be watching it, like I don't like the term should, and I would call out that phrase. Like every time I hear someone use the word should, I feel like that's our internal like judge trying to
Yeah.
make fit in with whatever our ego wants. And so, um, instead, I ask people to think about what is it that you want to do? Like, if you don't want to be watching the news, then you shouldn't be watching the news.
Mhm. I love that. And my internal judge has always been like on high alert.
Mhm.
Like, she's like there and ready. So that's what I need to work on.
You have a companion. So your judge, every person has a judge, by the way. So don't feel like I I have one, everyone has one.
Yeah.
Bob next door has one, like, but
Yeah.
each of us has like companions for our judge. So like yours might be the hypervigilant. The hypervigilant is like waiting for the shoe to drop, like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? And then you plan for like scenario A, B, C, D. Um,
Yeah.
but you can quiet those voices inside your head. I have one that's I call it the hyperachiever. And so this is the one that's always like, I have to like keep doing things in order to essentially like keep up or be worthy or whatever. And that's all just neural pathways that our brains have created since we were little.
Childhood.
There are
Yeah.
survival
Yeah,
mechanisms. But
that totally makes sense. It makes sense knowing like what your life was like, and it makes sense knowing what my life was like, that we would kind of be that way. I am working, like we did intention setting last night for New Year's Eve, and like
oh, I
my
love
biggest
that.
I loved it too. My biggest intention was I just wanted to be true to myself and be in full alignment and also be fully in my container.
Mhm.
Um, I lived a lot of my life outside of my container. When I say my container, I mean like my soul and my body. It was very easy for me to like disassociate or to kind of attach myself to other people, and I'm just done with that. So this little like judge inside of me, I'm gonna take advice from you and just be like, shut the fuck up because
Yeah.
I'm ready to kind of live in my own true authentic self and kind of find that alignment and allow that to kind of just fully go through me and allow that to guide me as instead of um I don't know. I don't know if in my entire life other than like the past year if I've ever allowed myself to really guide me. I
Mhm.
think that like when I was younger, I was so good at that. But, life happens and you get older and you pick up like stories and experiences along the way. And I really forgot who I was. And I think that and you might have even gone through this too. Like I feel like you almost, it's like in the forgetting, then you you realize that I don't know. I don't know what I was saying. That's my ADD brain. But I
Oh,
can see it
that's
in my
great.
mind where it's like I'm like going down the path, but it's like not my own path. And this year I want it to be my own path.
Yeah, yeah. I want that for you too. And I get it. It resonates. So like I feel like we have designed for ourselves lives in this game of life though that will help us have the lived experiences that will then set us up to be able to help other people. And so I think that forgetting is natural. And so I think like while we're young, we definitely are our full selves, but then little by little pieces of that get like hidden away or locked aside
Yeah.
till we're ready. And I think that's when people start to have like different awakenings and different experiences, and they do some of the shadow work, and then you get those little pieces back. It's like in a video game, you're going and collecting little gems or coins.
Yeah.
You're like picking up all of those to make yourself whole again.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I feel that for sure. And that's something that I think is maybe why we're drawn to the things that we're drawn to is like using our life experiences and the things that we've learned around the way to maybe help other people who are feeling alone or feeling lost. Because it
Yeah.
can be really like a lonely place to be when you feel like you don't know who you are. So I don't
Or
know,
when
the
you know
journey
who
back.
you are, but you feel different from everyone else.
Yeah. I I think I had both of those. I think I felt different from everybody else, but I think I also had no idea who I was. Or I almost like blocked her out for a long time,
Yeah.
right? You know, because you're like trying so hard to like fit into whatever you think is like the norm or what you should be. There's that should.
Yes.
But yeah, I think for sure, like I think maybe that's normal. I don't know. Like we had my friend's daughter was over here last night and she's in college and we were kind of talking about similar things about like kind of just finding yourself and I so wanted to just like word vomit all of this advice, but I was like, no, she needs to go through it on her own and figure it out because that's just part of the journey. And part of the journey is like going through these life experiences so that you can figure out where your own path is and then kind of go home to yourself. Maybe that's like the point of life is, well, I don't know. I think everybody has a different point of life. Everyone has a different lesson that they've come here to learn. But definitely my lesson was like finding myself again, coming home to me and feeling safe in that container.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like, I don't think, had you said something to her, I don't think you would have necessarily changed anything. Like, she'll still learn lessons, but, you know, I don't know. I guess, like, I kind of see this whole like podcast that we're doing as a way to help people get a little bit of a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
I mean, podcasts didn't exist when we were in college, but had one
Yeah.
existed, you and I both would have been consuming it probably.
100%. Yeah. I would have taken way more walks in college.
Instead, you and I were heading over to a new age store and learning first person about what Reiki was or what crystals were or any of these different things because that was the way that we were able to consume and learn back then.
I think that maybe we almost recognized back then that there was a piece of us that was like missing. And so those like the metaphysical stores and like the, Reiki masters that we would go to, it's almost like they had like this beacon out and that our souls were just naturally attracted to it because like
Hmm.
we sense that we needed that more in our lives. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I definitely think so.
Yeah. I think you're very good at like organizing, um, or you know what? I'm going to use your word. You're very good at alchemizing, um, and good at giving advice. So I think this is going to be really good for you, but I'm going to be along for the ride and I can help guide when I can. But I feel like my forte is more like with the, if your loved ones want to come say, hey, I can tell you that. Or if you need some like balancing in your chakras, like I'm your girl. But you are super good with advice.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But you have the cool gifts. You like are deep in touch with all of your clairs, which is what I want to get better at. I have shut out that part of me for so long that I'm like a baby dabbler in that space. So,
You For sure, I feel like we're in a past life for whatever reason, like persecuted for your gifts. And I think that's why you have like this almost like push and pull, or there's like a part of you where you're like, I'm gonna like dip my toe in it, but then I'm gonna like get distracted and like dip my toe in this other, adventure instead. And maybe part of like your life journey is learning how to feel safe enough to express those gifts too. Because I
Absolutely.
definitely think that you have multiple clairs. I mean, we have all of the clairs, all of us, but some are just like, vibrating at a higher frequency than others. And I think that you're claircognizant for sure. I think you're clairsentience. I think you feel things, especially when you pick up from other people's emotions.
Mhm.
And I also think you're a clairaudient too.
And the one I want is clairvoyant, where you can just like see a
Yeah.
thing, right?
You have it. We all have it. It's just
I
like,
know.
like exercising that muscle.
And it's most prevalent when I'm trying to fall asleep and I close my eyes and then I see all kinds of jumbled pictures. So I know it's there. It's just not, it's like I'm a baby dabbler at this point. But
That makes sense too, because that's when you're like your nervous system is calmed down, so you're able to kind of fully open up yourself. That's why I think it's awesome that you've been meditating, because I think that's going to just open up that third eye even more.
I need to do more of that.
You've been so good though. I think you do a lot. But yeah, that's part of my intention too. I want to like have a good routine where I wake up and you just kind of sit with myself and figure out my intentions for the day. Maybe we can do that together. Be
I
each
love
other's accountability buddies.
Yes, yes. That would be so lovely. I think we definitely should do that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think maybe like there's a way we can make it interactive too and like have people like vote or even like email us different like topic requests in the future.
Yeah.
We'll have to kick this off
Yeah.
first.
I think Kelly and I both like to research too. So if there are like topics that we don't touch upon that you're like, oh man, I really wish that they would talk about like the Pleiadians, or I wish that they would talk more about like
Mhm.
how to tap into your like intuitive gifts, then
Yeah.
yeah, let us know and we'll dive deep. That's like
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do.
Some
Like
of the topics we've been thinking about are, well, Christy, you mentioned the Pleiadians. We are both star seeds from different, um, I don't know if you heard that. They're
yeah, I
downstairs.
don't it sounded like thunder. What was it?
Oh, they're playing down here.
Oh, it's a child.
It's a child. Um, but we're both star seeds, so we've reincarnated here, but also in other places, which is what a star seed is. It's a soul that has reincarnated elsewhere besides Earth. But we've also talked about maybe doing stuff on just general intuition, maybe some meditations with you, stuff on Oracle and Tarot, Akashic Records, human design. What else?
I love all that stuff. I think that we could talk about past lives
Yeah.
and maybe higher selves, how to connect to your higher self and kind of merge like that 3D with the 5D version. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Frequency, I think like raising your frequency or figuring out, applicable ways to raise your vibration in like an easy way could be interesting. Yeah, like I don't know, aliens, your ancestors, ghost stories. Like I mean, there's no limit. You told me like this we need to manifest and think of it in a big way. So
Yeah.
I think that like there's nothing off the table. Is that
Man,
the right or put everything on the table, whatever the saying is. You know what I mean,
yes,
hopefully.
yes. So, in other words, crystals, sacred sites, astrocartography, Reiki, all of
Yes.
those
Yeah.
things, everything is on the table. Christy
Yeah.
said it, and so be it then.
100%. Oh, astrocartography, I think is so fascinating. I
You're
think that
so
would be
good at
really
that. I really don't understand what I'm doing, so I'm
fun.
definitely going to learn from you on that one.
We can go deep in your chart because it's so fun. I love it. But well, should we wrap things up?
I think so. Well, if you're interested in more of this, you can find us here on this YouTube channel, Cosmic Besties. But you can also email us. You can find that on our website, cosmicbesties.com. Woohoo. The site will actually be like a lot cuter eventually, but Christy and I are slow rolling this. So we
Yeah.
want to really get you excited, build up the momentum.
Right. It's an organic experience. So come along for the ride with us.
But you can also find each of us independently. Like if you want to go get a mediumship reading with Christy, you can find her on Instagram.
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Christiana Rose does readings. It's CRISTIANA. And then my website's christianarose.com. So those are two places that if you need to get a hold of me, go ahead and do that. I respond usually like within 24 hours, hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you want to do some life coaching, or do some authenticity alchemy with me,
Yes,
you
I
can
do.
find me on Instagram, Kelly Pastor Coaching, or TikTok, also Kelly Pastor Coaching. It's like my little name here, and then add coaching onto the end. Um,
Mhm.
or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look me up and go to my services page. Yeah, we're really excited to have you here with us. And
Yeah.
no,
I
we hope
feel really honored. I mean, even if it's just like one or two people watching it first, like, I don't know, thanks for being part of our little like sisterhood tribe. Like, welcome.
yes. Let's expand it. Let's get it as big as we possibly can with all of these
There's
high vibrational humans.
100%. I think there's so much heaviness like in the world sometimes, and it's easy to get stuck in that kind of low vibrational like
Mm.
drudge, whatever. It's really funny that my North Node is in Gemini because I feel like I'm a terrible communicator. But yeah, like I think that it's easy to get stuck in that low vibrational crap. And so come hang with us and hopefully like we'll raise the vibration of the earth. That'd be kind of cool.
And guess what I just picked up?
Ooh, what? A sign?
Cycle breakers.
See, we're gonna break out of that negativity.
Yes, us and everyone who watches this, we're all cycle breakers. So this is the universe confirming that cycle breakers will be the first people watching this.
I love that. And I feel like that's like something that's going to be happening in this. I mean, well, that could be a whole nother episode, but like,
Yeah.
like this 2025, I feel like it's almost like, they call like the age of Aquarius or whatever that we've been
Yeah.
in. I feel like we're really going to be seeing that with people who are like breaking cycles and like innovating. Like innovators, I think are going to be really big this year. So come innovate with us.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
the sun's like setting and like
Hey,
blinding me,
the sun
but
is shining on you, and it is saying, let that light shine, girl.
that's right. All right, Chico. Well, I love you lots.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.